All right, welcome in. It's the Breer Report for November the 12th, a mailbag edition of the Breer Report. As always, we got more answers to more of your questions online at the mmqb.com and more in-depth answers there. Be sure to check that out. But as always, right here, right now, we're going to answer three of your questions. The first question comes from Ronnie. That's at Trey40. Could you see a current college coach such as Marcus Freeman or Lane Kiffin get linked to the Giants head coaching job? Absolutely, Ronnie. I think they're going to look in every bucket. And I can tell you, from an informed place, that the plan is to cast a very wide net when it comes to this job. One of the reasons why is their past experience and what we've seen over the course of the last decade in New York. The last time they had a successful head coach hire was in 2004 when they brought Tom Coughlin aboard. That'll create some reflection. And if you look, they've sort of reached into different buckets over the last 10 years to try to find the right head coach. In 2016, they did what everybody does, which they went to try to find the hotshot, young offensive assistant that's got connections to the quarterback position. That was Ben McAdoo. That lasted 2 years. In 2018, they bring in Pat Shurmur, the ex-head coach, the guy with experience, the guy with maturity, the guy who was calm, who could coach the quarterback. That lasted 2 years. In 2020, they go and hire the special teams coach. They hire the guy who they think can be the program leader, the CEO type of head coach who can see things from a big picture perspective and build a team that way. And that lasted 2 years. And of course, most recently, they go back to hiring the offensive quarterback-centric guy, Brian Daboll, and that doesn't work. And so I think the lesson to learn here for the Giants is that you shouldn't box yourself into one category. There are lots of different ways to win. We see Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel working out in year one in New England and Chicago. They got very different backgrounds. Ben Johnson came up as an offensive assistant, worked his way up through the coaching ranks. He's a career coach, and he comes in to coach the Chicago Bears. And right now they're 7-3. The New England Patriots hire Mike Vrabel, an ex-player, a guy with connections to their organization, a guy who coached on the defensive side of the ball, and they're 8-2. So there are different ways to do this. Looking at college coaches is one. You mentioned Marcus Freeman and Lane Kiffin. Those are two that make a ton of sense because Lane Kiffin's got the connections to the quarterback and Jackson Dart. Now, I don't know that he'd necessarily be the Maras cup of tea. Like from a personality standpoint, he's generally not what they hired, but he's got like a lot of skins on the wall now and is a very good offensive strategist and coach and obviously can build a program. And then you look at Marcus Freeman. He's the Notre Dame guy. There's a lot of connections to Notre Dame in that building. And so both those guys, it makes some sense. Jed Fish is a New Jersey native, coached 13 years in the NFL. He's done a good job at Washington, did a real good job before that at the University of Arizona. I hate to say this name. I don't want him leaving, but Ryan Day is somebody, again, a native Northeasterner who, has been in the division. He coached with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's got NFL experience. He works with the quarterback. He's obviously built a great program at Ohio State. And then Matt Campbell would be another name that NFL teams have pretty consistently been interested in. Steve Sarkisian would be another one at Texas. So I think there are some college names to take a look at. Question number 2. This is from Steve Margelia. Steve asks, do you have faith the Bills will get things turned around in the passing game? He says specifically the passing game. I think too often we're looking at these things in 2 and 3 game clumps. I think a lot of this depends on health, right? Like, and where the Bills are from a health standpoint. Is Khalil Shakir healthy? Is Dalton Kincaid healthy? Is Dawson Knox healthy? I think when you've got the full complement of weapons there and everybody's healthy and up and ready to go, between Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, James Cook, they've got a pretty good group, and Josh Allen said this to me a couple weeks ago. It's like an everybody eats group, right? Like it's the sort of group where there's balance. They complement each other well. You can spread the ball around. But obviously it hasn't looked good the past couple of weeks. They've been nicked up. So health is going to be a big piece of this. But I trust Josh Allen. I trust Joe Brady to get all of this figured out. We've seen them go through bumps before. We get to this part of the year, and a lot of times it's what's wrong with this team or this team that's an established winner. Generally, those teams wind up figuring it out. I'd have a lot of trust that the Bills are going to figure this one out. Finally, question number 3. This is from Salvador. That's at Salvador Yoga. If the Steelers fail to win a playoff game this year, will they bring Aaron Rodgers back? And how could they let Mike Tomlin draft another quarterback next April after his Kenny Pickett fiasco. I think they'll leave the door open for Aaron Rodgers to come back. And I think the reason why is there's not necessarily an obvious answer out there. They'll have had him for a year in their system. If Aaron Rodgers wants to come back, I think he could wind up being an ideal bridge quarterback. He has been around young quarterbacks before. It really worked out for Green Bay, despite all of the drama between him and the front office. The Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers relationship really worked out. So the Steelers could look at it and say, if we draft a quarterback, this would be a good guy to have our young quarterback around. So I certainly see that as a possibility. Now, as for them drafting a quarterback in April, I think the problem with what they did in 22 was Ben Roethlisberger retired, and then they boxed themselves in and said, yes, we are drafting our quarterback this year. And I think that's when mistakes get made. When you decide in a given year that our quarterback is going to come out of this year's draft, you don't know whether or not the draft class is going to have a quarterback that's worthy of being your quarterback for the next 15 years. That's how Christian Ponder goes 12th overall. That's how Jake Locker gets drafted high. And we've seen this time and time again. EJ Manuel, in years where there isn't depth of the quarterback class, or there just isn't high quality of the quarterback class, we see guys get overdrafted. And so, I think that's going to be the trick this year is if you're Pittsburgh, a team like Pittsburgh that needs a young one, it's avoiding that trap. And so what do you think of Fernando Mendoza? What do you think of Dante Moore? Garrett Nussmeier got benched at LSU last weekend. Drew Aller got hurt at Penn State. There's a lot of moving parts with this quarterback class. Ty Simpson, what do you think of him? This feels like just like last year where, do you have to be careful about falling into the trap of overdrafting a quarterback because you need one, even when there might not be one there worth taking in the slot that you're picking? Appreciate you guys coming out. As always, you can leave comments and more questions down below here on the YouTube page, or you can get to me on social media at Albert Breer on Twitter, at Albert R. Breer on Facebook, at Albert_Breer on Instagram. We got one more Breer report coming for you this week. We'll see you a little later in the week with that as we look forward towards week 11.